Hey guys, so Shadowhunters premiered last Tuesday, and of course I'm going to review it just like I do Rain, because how can I not when I was so excited and also terrified for this show to air. But the first episode has aired on TV on Freeform, formerly ABC Family, and the second episode has been put on the Freeform app, and I did watch it on the app. But I'm gonna wait to review it, and I will admit that I think I'm gonna review it on my blog. But because of that, I'm not going to be really strict with myself and like I say I absolutely cannot talk about the second episode in this video, but I'm also going to try and focus on the first episode and like my initial reactions to everything within the first episode. But obviously I have a lot to say, so I'm gonna have to like probably not talk about everything or I'll be here forever. I mean, my City of Heavenly Fire review was like 6 different videos. They were all like half an hour each, so I can obviously talk about the Mortal Instruments quite a bit, but I'm gonna try and not go overboard with this. So I'll create another review for the second episode where I'll get to talk about it more in the future with all of the episodes. You can probably tell from that and from my like need to contain myself that I did like the first episode and also the second episode. I think I liked the second episode a bit more than the first episode, but I did think that the first episode was good overall. Had some problems. There were some things I didn't like so much, but it wasn't anything huge. Mostly I think it was the acting and the writing combined was at times fine, and at other times there were just some moments where it was kind of like that, like the way that line was delivered was awkward, or the line itself was just awkward, and things like that, but nothing too big. I can't think of any big change that they've made that I'm angry about. I think they're doing a good job as far as that's concerned, like changing things to work for TV, but also staying true to the book. As far as that goes, I think they're doing a good job in my opinion, especially after watching the second episode. I would say that, but it's not perfect, so I will acknowledge that it's definitely not perfect, and there are things that I would like to change and things that I think could have been done better, in the sense that mostly the writing and acting, I think, and the special effects. Oh my god, the special effects, you guys. I'm not a fan of a lot of those. Some of them are okay. The blades are cool looking, and things like that, but some of the effects, like the supernatural jumping and like those effects, a lot of the effects in the fight scenes I think are just really like strange looking and not really believable. It reminds me of like Twilight in a bad way, like the just special effects that don't work that well, I don't think. And they've made the Shadowhunters, I think this is in the second episode, not the first episode or something, where like Izzy and Simon are together, and Simon tries to like leave the room or something, and Izzy like uses super speed to block his way, and so they have super speed in the TV show, and I think they've seemed to have made the like Shadowhunters even almost more supernatural than they are in the book, which would be like the one change that I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Mostly, I think, though, a lot of my trepidation with that is coming from the fact that a lot of the effects that go along with that look really cheesy and fake, and I don't like that. Jace, Izzy, and Alec are walking into the club, and they're glamored so no one can see them, except Clary can, obviously, because she's a Shadowhunter, and Jace just like completely walks into Clary and then is surprised that she can see him, which obviously, whether he walked into her or not, she shouldn't be able to see him if she's a mundane. But it's also like, okay, you're glamored and walking into this club, why does he walk right into Clary, because they like collide. And then when she gets angry at him, he's like flabbergasted that she can see him, but at the same time, she would have known someone had walked into her either way. I think I really like what they're trying to do with like humor and incorporating humor. There were times where I thought that there were jokes that were better than other jokes. Some of the humor in the episode was kind of not so great. One thing that they've changed is a really small thing, but Simon's Twitter account references like everyone knowing that Clary got into art school because of Simon's Twitter account, and Jocelyn's comment about him only having 92 followers. I found that amusing. I thought that was funny. And then I thought it was cool that they had like a joke about Cedar and things, just because that does establish Simon as being Jewish, which is something that could easily be like glossed over otherwise. Like in the TV show, it could just easily never be mentioned. So I like that they like mentioned it so that you do know that about Simon in the show. Also, some other like smaller things I can remember. I thought it was cool that Clary and Simon were writing a graphic novel, and that Clary had some of the drawings for that. I thought that was a pretty like cool detail, and I really liked some of the smaller details like that within the first episode, and I can't remember if there were any really like that in the second episode. I feel like the biggest change so far has been Maureen and her character, and the fact that she's older than in the books, but I don't know how big of a change that will be, because this is something that's interesting to me actually, is how Maureen's story is going to change just because she is their age and not a 12-year-old, because like a lot of stuff that happens with Maureen feels different just because she's older, and because in the books, Maureen has a crush on Simon, but she's 12 and Simon's 16, so book Maureen legitimately has no chance with Simon. But in the show, she obviously has a crush on Simon, but she's Simon's age, and it's much more realistic that something could happen between them. Of course, Simon still has feelings for Clary, and there's still the whole Sizzy thing, which I think they're doing a great job with, by the way. I mean, I will talk about the couples in a minute, but I think all three couples feel to me in the show exactly like they felt in the first book. Not that like Magnus and Alec haven't even interacted yet, but for some reason I still feel that way about them, like just from the previews that we've seen, even though we haven't seen them in an episode. But Sizzy in the second episode were great together, like wonderful together, completely how I imagined Simon and Isabel when reading the first book. So I thought that was a really great job. And but obviously, so all of that's going on, and I'm assuming they're going to like completely go for the love triangle, which is kind of more than a love triangle, especially with Maureen now, because I am wondering how she's going to be incorporated into that. So in the book, it was like, okay, Maureen is a little girl who has a crush on Simon, end of story. In the TV show, we have a character who could play a much bigger role in a love triangle and could actually like be involved in conflict and everything. Like her feelings for Simon have to be taken more seriously, basically, because she's older. And not that I don't, maybe her and Simon will date. I don't think they're going to end up together because, I mean, between Clary and Izzy, and I'm pretty sure the couples are going to end the same in the TV show as they did in the books. I really hope they do. But, so I just don't feel like anything that happens between Simon and Maureen, I think will be kind of short term in the grand scheme of things, maybe like this season, but not longer if it lasts longer than one season, fingers crossed. But it is interesting how everything's just going to be different with Maureen. And then of course I've only talked about romance so far, but I think so much of Maureen's what word should even use to describe Marine. The way that she kind of goes crazy when she gets turned into a vampire in the books partially works, I think, because of her age. Like, you can believe that Marine really does all of that stupid stuff as a vampire because she's 12, and she's a 12-year-old who just became a vampire, and she goes a little crazy with it. And I don't know if that works as well now that she's been aged up. So I don't know how long it's going to take for Marine to become a vampire. I feel like they probably will do that. Maybe they won't, who knows. But I feel like she would eventually, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with her character at that point, how close we'll stick to the book, because I'm just not sure if the Marine, like the vampire version of Marine from the books, would work in the TV show now that she's older. Another thing that was kind of strange to me, not a complaint so much, it's just something that I found kind of weird, and I'm not sure if it's just me or not, but Clary's insistence to not listen to her mom for like 5 seconds kind of got on my nerves, just because it's really obvious that Jocelyn's trying to tell her something important, and Clary just like brushes it off, and she's like, it's my birthday, I'm going out with my friends, blah blah blah. Like, she won't even sit still for like 5 minutes to talk to Jocelyn. And to me, her behavior felt like a younger teenager, not so much an 18-year-old. And this wasn't, I wouldn't consider this a huge deal, because I do think that there are 18-year-olds who are like that. Just on average, we consider that younger teenage behavior, and so that was kind of strange to me, and also kind of annoying, like frustrating, obviously, because Clary needs to know these things and she's ignoring them, so there's that frustration, but also just because it didn't entirely feel like that was her age to me. I don't know. They also have a lot of technology. Like, the Institute is really high tech, which is weird, and they have computers everywhere, and not only that, but they have computers that show them exactly where in New York, like, every single demon is. Like, they can just look at this computer screen, it tells them exactly where the demon is, and that's strange to me, like, really strange. And I actually had a moment later on in the episode when Jace, like, saves Clary in Clary's house from a demon, and he just appears out of nowhere, and at first there's like, wait, how did he get there? How did Jace just like magically appear? But then I realized that it's because in the TV show they know where all of the demons are, and it was just a coincidence, of course, that Jace wound up going after the demon that was in Clary's house. But it's weird to me. I don't fully understand how that's supposed to work, because I don't know, it's a strange mix of fantasy and technology that I find interesting, and I'm not against it. I think that it's a really interesting idea what they're doing, but I feel like it's also kind of like a hard thing to do if you're mixing like magic and the supernatural with technology. And the idea that they have these computers that detect everywhere demons are kind of doesn't feel entirely believable to me. I would almost find it more believable if there was magic involved, like some magical way of knowing where all the demons are. It makes more sense than a computer that does. But I'm also wondering if we're going to at some point in time find out that their technology is magic somehow, which would explain that. But I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'm not against all of the technology, although it does feel strange right now, but that particular technology, the being able to track like every demon and just see where they all are, that feels strange to me. I'm not so sure how I feel about it yet. The inclusion of Dot is another big change that I didn't think about. She gets killed, so she was a short-lived new character, but I found that interesting. I liked her inclusion, and I think it was a good way of kind of introducing warlocks into the show without like immediately going to Magnus, because they're doing a really good job of having like Magnus loom in the background, where he's been in both of the first 2 episodes and stuff, but hasn't really been in them, hasn't interacted with the main characters or anything. So I think Dot was a good alternative for introducing like the idea of warlocks and what their powers are and things like that. You know, another thing that Clary did in the first episode and kind of the second that really annoyed me was how quickly she stopped trusting Luke. And I will admit that that's partially because I've read the books and I know that Luke is good and everything and on her side. And I mean, they could change that on the show. Like, they could have some plot twist where Luke is evil on the show. But I know that they're not going to, because that would anger way too many fans. And so it was just frustrating to watch Clary so easily, like, think that this guy who basically helped raise her wanted her dead. It was weird that Valentine was at Chernobyl. I have no idea why Valentine's at Chernobyl, but that was weird. That's like all I can say about that. And my favorite bit from the first episode was the exchange between Alec and Izzy, which of course had my favorite part of the episode had to do with Alec. I had talked about Alec surprisingly little for the first episode because I feel like Alec didn't do much other than stand around and be grumpy for the first 2 episodes, which is very much like Alec early on in the series. And I actually saw a Tumblr post a couple of days before the show aired talking, or like reminding everyone basically that there wasn't going to be any character development going into it. And it is funny because, you know, I've gotten used to the characters later on in the series, and with the TV show they're the characters from the beginning of the book, and I feel like they're doing such a good job with that overall, because I really feel like they're the characters from the first book. And it's strange to me because I've gotten used to them later on, but it is taking me back to the first book so much, especially the second episode. And it is interesting to me because Alec is definitely Alec from the beginning of the series, who I love as well. But at this point in time, Alec's just really kind of like closed off from everyone and angry about a lot of things because he's like so scared of himself and everything. And I am really enjoying seeing that version of Alec, and I'm really excited to see him develop over the course of the TV show like he does in the book. Obviously could go down like a different path, but I hope that it like still feels like Alec later on, like in this show and whatnot. But as far as the first 2 episodes go, he really doesn't do much other than make snide comments. Like, he even calls Simon it to Simon's face and like completely dehumanizes Simon, and because he's a mundane. And it's very much in character with Alec of the first book, I think, where he's not the nicest person. And I think that's why so many people I think dislike, or if not like outright hate, Alec in the earlier books, and I think that's definitely coming through in the TV show. So that's all I really have to say about him so far, but I'm really excited to see where he goes in the show, and I hope it like it doesn't have to exactly mirror the books, but I would like it to kind of feel like the books. But I think I completely went on a tangent there because I was going to say that my favorite bit in the episode was with Izzy and Alec, where Jay says something about Alec turning down a notch because he's like making snide comments, and Izzy makes the comment that Alec doesn't, like, she loves him but he doesn't have a switch, and then he replies, "I love you too," before going on like really annoyed and everything. And just that exchange, the tones of both of their voices, but especially Alec in that moment when he like responded, was hilarious to me and perfect, I think. And I just loved that moment. I really like Izzy and Alec's relationship so far. Like, I really like how they've interacted so far, because I just think it's really great how emphasized I think their sibling relationship is so far. And I don't know if that's something that's all that common in TV shows or books or anything to have like that kind of sibling relationship, and I really, really like it so far. Also really like Clary and Simon's friendship so far. I think they're doing a great job with that. We haven't seen so much Parabatai stuff with Jace and Alec. I think there's a little bit in episode 2, not so much episode 1, but I did like what there was, and like I said, I really love what they're doing with all 3 of like the main couples so far. I think they're doing a great job with that. Like overall, even though sometimes the acting fell off to me, I think that everything felt like the characters to me. Everything felt like the book to me in the first 2 episodes, especially the second episode though. I know this is a review of the first episode, but I especially felt that in the second episode, and it makes me really, really excited for what's going to happen next, because so far, even if there is problems in the episodes, I really do get like the feeling of the world and the characters, and that's extremely, extremely important. So I'm just really, really happy with that so far. But this is way longer than I intended. Clearly, the Mortal Instruments is like the one thing that I just can't like refrain myself from going on for a million years about. But I hope that not all of my reviews wind up like this. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. Like I said, I think I'm going to do a review for the second one on my blog, but this was kind of a review for the first 2 episodes anyway, and we'll see. I'm going to definitely review every other episode, but I don't know if they'll be on my blog or a video, but hopefully I do a video soon, and I will see you guys later. Bye.